I have some upcoming updates to make about the Virginia Beach Healthy Living Expo, or the Healthy Living Expo Virginia Beach. You can check out the website healthylivingexpovb.com. That is healthylivingexpovb.com. It's all one word, no spaces, underscores, or hyphens. healthylivingexpovb.com. And so we're getting close here, because the Healthy Living Expo in Virginia Beach is going to be on the weekend of May 2nd and 3rd at Neptune Park and the greater oceanfront area. And it's going to feature various different activities, a lot of outdoor activities. You're going to have meditation walks. You're going to have puppy yoga. There's going to be a 5K run. And you're going to have lots of healthy food and lots of great information. There are going to be speakers there. There are great sponsors who have already gotten on board with this event. And I'm excited because I am going to, I'm securing my spot. I don't want to say anything for certain, but I have pretty much secured my own spot. I have a booth, an area, a plot, and I'm both going to be speaking and doing an activation, a demonstration of KappaGuerra movements for fitness. And that's the main thing that I'm really excited for. And that is what's going to be the focus of this right now for my site, KappaGuerra.com. That's KappaGuerra.com, KappaGuerra.com. And this is going to go onto the KappaGuerra YouTube as well. So it's going to be on the website, the podcast, and the YouTube. And this is serving many purposes here to bring awareness to both the Healthy Living Expo Virginia Beach, that you can find, once again, information at Healthy Living Virginia Beach, actually healthylivingvb.com, and KappaGuerra, KappaGuerra.com, KappaGuerra.com. And so one of the main things that I'm doing now is I'm recruiting people for my KappaGuerra team. And KappaGuerra is my hybrid, and it also is my approach that very meticulously separates the philosophies and the practices behind the dance of KappaGuerra, the game of KappaGuerra, and the martial art of KappaGuerra. And right now I'm calling out all people who want to learn KappaGuerra in a non-hierarchical environment, meaning it's not a teacher-student relationship. I'm not going to be out there pretending like I'm a mestre or a master. I'm just sharing my knowledge of KappaGuerra, so the KappaGuerra movement, so that we can play the game and also dance. So we're limiting it in the first couple of levels to dancing and playing, which those two go really well together. When it comes to the martial art of KappaGuerra, that's a completely different ballgame, because it's anything goes, and it requires sparring, and it requires challenge and resistance, and it's not something that I am yet willing to cross over into that realm yet, unless I know that I'm working with people that are dedicated to the cause and that I can trust. So for now, it's really just about having fun and getting some exercise. So in the same way that you and some of your homies might get together at a basketball court for a pickup game, or even some strangers, and that's what this basically is. What I really want to make it is sort of like an endless open roda. And an open roda in KappaGuerra is just where different groups get together and they play. There's no strict instructional classes, there's no drills or anything like that. But there's But I also am leaving space for if people want to show up and if they want to share their experience with capoeira with other people, because there's going to be people who don't know anything about it and they want to learn. Some people might just want to watch. Some people might want to show up and just clap their hands and, and dance a little bit, even if it's not using the capoeira ginga as a base, the capoeira swing as a base, right? And I'm all for that. And then there's people, of course, that I'm going to share the ginga with and a few of the basic rules of how to engage in the dance and the game. And so I'm going to now make it very clear about my delineation, about how I really make it clear what KappaGuerra, KappaGuerra, why my hybrid, why my elevation, why my evolution of capoeira is different. What makes it stand out? What's special and what's in it for you? So first of all, it's a lot of fun. And you can get a lot of really great exercise at your own pace. I mean, you can do a ginga and various different movements and move around in capoeira, and you can do it for an hour straight without actually stopping. And you can burn a lot of calories like that. And, that's something I can show people how to do when they show up. And it's simply just being able to move to the music. And there are various different songs that you can move to. And the tempo changes. And you'll be able to take a break whenever you want. Some people might just want to show up and just do the ginga and listen to the Afro Brazilian music for an hour or two. And that's just all right. Or for however long my portable speaker goes. Actually, I should probably buy another one just specifically for this purpose instead of using my guitar amp. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so the dance. Here are the rules for the dance when in capoeira. So, and we want to think about it in a specific way, right? In a very certain way you think about it. When you are dancing, you have a dance partner. Now, this is very important to think of the person that you are interacting with as your dance partner. And in the dance of capoeira, the objective is to edify each other, to make each other look good. If you think about it this way, think about if you were a dancer and you had a dance partner and you were going to do a competition, like a ballroom dancing competition, and it was the goal of you and your partner to look as good as you possibly can so that the judges will score your dance routine in your favor. And in capoeira, or the joga bonita, the pretty game, and remember, this is the way that I am approaching it in this very certain way for the dance part, is that you're cooperating with each other. And so meanwhile you are largely, for the most part, improvising, although it doesn't have to be. It can be completely choreographed, and it can also be in the moment indicated, or in the moment choreographed, meaning, I might say to the person, I'm going to kick, or I might even use a hand gesture that shows I'm about to use my right leg to kick. So that will give the person time to think about, and to when I finally do the kick, and I'm doing it only fast enough to make it look good, like they just dodged it out of the way, for them to do their escape and get out of the way, which means since we're facing each other, I'm kicking with my right side, they're going to move to their right. So sometimes you might just say right, and then count down 3, 2, 1, and then you throw the kick, they escape, and vice versa. And then you might say circle left, or you might say left circle, right? So that you can move and give it some variety. And so you're just working with the person so that you're getting exercise. You both are kicking, escaping, circling, advancing, retreating, right? And those are really just a handful of moves that you need there. The ginga, a straight kick, or any kind of kick that you want. Circling to the left, circling to the right, advancing forward, retreating to backwards. And with those handful of movements, you can play a full and fun and challenging capoeira game, but as a dance, because you're working with a partner so that you're helping each other to look good and to feel good. That's the objective of the dance as I have prescribed it in my system of KappaGuerra. Okay, that's the dance. You're cooperating with a partner. So those are words, the definitions and the terms to use are very careful, right? In the capoeira dance, you're cooperating, right? Cooperation is the term there, with a partner. Okay. Now, the game. the game, you can have some of those very similar aspects. Now, one more thing about the dance is that you're doing your best to do all of these things in as closely locked rhythm with the music as possible. That's the other thing about the dance, is that for the most part, you don't really want to deviate from the rhythm of the music. You stick to it as much as you possibly can in the Jenga. You're like locked in step with the rhythm of the music that's playing. That's one of the objectives. And for that, it's really best to use the capoeira music. There's various different capoeira recordings that you can find. And so that's what the main objective in the dance. Okay, so moving on to the game. Now, in the game of capoeira, jogo capoeira, so instead of jogo bonita, the pretty game, this is just jogo, or jogo. The game is the person you are interacting with now is your opponent. And in the game of capoeira, the objective is to use strategic movement or strategic tactics, right? So you're thinking strategically and moving tactically so that you can put yourself in the most advantageous position, which means that you are controlling the movement and controlling the circle to the point where you manipulate or trick or deceive your opponent into putting themselves in a more compromising position, so that without using any brute force and only using skill and timing and finesse, you can use a sweep, a push, a combination of a sweep or a push, a bump, a shove, any disequalizing or disequilibrating movement or disequilibrium movement, to knock the person, to make them sit down on their butt and or fall on their back. And again, you're doing this gently. You're not trying to knock the person out. You're not kicking them in the head. You're not kicking them in the sternum. You're not chopping down the leg with any kind of Muay Thai roundhouse kick. No, you're sweeping them, sweeping the ankle, picking. You can even do sort of takedowns where, like a single or double leg takedown, as in wrestling, where you're not slamming the person and you're not doing anything to try to hurt the person. As a matter of fact, one of the rules should be that when you do that, it's done as gently as you can, but as definitively as you can. And that takes a high level of skill, right? And it's with that high level of skill that you are to keep in mind at all times, and it lends itself to the martial art of capoeira, which is the next level, which I was saying I'm not immediately getting involved with that unless there are people that I know of, that I can trust, and that I'm ready to go to that level with, to train that way. But you now think about this. So you have a capoeira partner in the dance and a capoeira opponent in the game. Now, in martial arts, it's in self-defense and combat situations, and yes, people in the military and police could do well from learning some of the things that capoeira has to offer, but it has to be approached in a certain way, because there are very, very great aspects, ambidexterity being one of them, body awareness, so many things that come with it. And I've actually unofficially trained with people in various different from various different military branches and police officers, and so there are things you can learn. But what you learn from having a dance partner in capoeira and from having a game opponent in capoeira, in combination with those things, with that cooperation and that competition, right? So those are key points here, right? So you have a cooperative partner and a competitive opponent in the game, right? So cooperative partner in the dance and competitive opponent in the game. And it's very important I'm using this terminology here. And now in the martial art, in the fight of capoeira, in the combat system, you have an enemy or an adversary, right? And this is where anything goes. Anything that you can possibly use, any weapons that you have at your disposal that you can use most efficiently and effectively, meaning that you inflict the most damage on your adversary or enemy while sustaining the least amount of damage to yourself. This is the objective: to cause as much destruction, to eliminate your opponent so that you prevail with little to no damage to yourself. And this literally is anything goes. In Brazilian Portuguese, they say vale tudo, and it means anything goes. It's NHB, the old school, right, used to say no holds barred. And that means that you can use any strikes, any submissions, any slams, throws, any weapons, anything in your environment. It does not matter. When you're in a self-defense or combat situation, the objective is to prevail. And that's what this is all about. So let's see what I've got here. It's been 15 minutes. I'm going to pause real quick. I got to do a quick pickup, and I'm going to come back and finish this off. All right, so I've just gone over the dance, the game, and the martial art of capoeira, and how in my KappaGuerra evolution of the game of capoeira, I very clearly have delineated those. I'm pretty sure that those things are simple to understand, but, you know, in a dance you're cooperating, in a game you're competing, and in combat you are eliminating. As they say, if you've heard it in the movies, right? It comes from the military, with extreme prejudice. You take no prisoners. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but that is the essence of real combat. You are not to be nice to your enemies. If someone is trying to hurt you, you know, there's something that's funny that my mom, which is interestingly enough, that she shared. I remember she said it once and it stuck with me, and then I read it years later in a book. But it was a quote from Bruce Lee, because, you know, my mom used to say, she simplified it. She says, if somebody, you know, tries to hurt you or they hit you, you hit them back twice as hard. Well, the Bruce Lee saying is that, you know, if someone grazes your skin, smash their flesh. If someone smashes your flesh, break their bones. If someone breaks your bones, take their life. That has stuck with me for a long time. All right. Craziness, right? It's insane. It sounds intense. Well, it's the reality of the world sometimes. However, I'm glad that these kind of things don't find their way to me, and I don't find myself in combat or self-defense situations. As a matter of fact, it's gotten to a point, and I have 3 very clear examples, which I won't go over now, of when I stayed silent and just looked in the direction of people who were being aggressive and threatening me, and just breathed very calmly and slowly while looking in their direction. And all 3 of the people who I did this to literally, actually ran away from me. And I wasn't doing anything. I did not advance towards them. I didn't make a funny face. I didn't scream, growl, yell, pull out any weapons. I literally just stood there looking at them, breathing very slowly and calmly. And that's what sometimes happens when you are self-aware. Okay. So this is also a recruitment call to build this KappaGuerra team in Virginia Beach. I am training right now. I've been every Thursday out at this park by Waring's Gym, which is across the street from Badass Coffee of Hawaii in Virginia Beach. And I'm doing it outdoors right now. I also, of course, I do private lessons. But right now, for a group, when people want to come out, what I'm doing is meeting at that park, and just for an hour or two, and anytime after 1 p.m. Sometimes, you know, I need some time to get into that. I have other stuff I do during the earlier part of the day, but anytime between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. I want to get done around 4:30, because then 5 p.m. I need to hit the road again to start doing some other work, is where I'll be meeting. And it doesn't matter if I'm by myself or if there are people going to meet up with me. I'm doing it anyway. And now I'm going to finish the second part of this gig here, and I will be right back once again. All right, so that's really what I'm doing here. I'm bringing awareness to this activity, and there are various reasons for that. And one of the main things, and then I'm gonna talk about two things here. One of the main things is that a lot of people aren't getting outdoors and interacting with each other enough. And so I look at it this way. Here's a way to think about this, playing capoeira. So when I was growing up, I was influenced by a lot of different comic books and cartoons, and all of the heroes and villains in there, a lot of them were really, like, they were built, right? They were ripped, they were jacked, right? They were and these are people that a lot of times were my role models, because there was a lot of absenteeism in my life. There was a lot to be desired from certain people that I otherwise should have been looking up to. Although I did take a lot of what worked for me. Don't get me wrong. I extracted the information and the good stuff that I needed to from the people in my environment. So I'm an information vampire, is what I am. I am really good at extracting data from my atmosphere. So, but there's a saying that I learned in neurolinguistic programming, and it's become very popular in the self-help, life coaching, personal development industry, new age, metaphysics. A lot of people say this a lot, but I first learned it, at least the first time I recall, was I was a student at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, HMI. Find them at hypnosis.edu in Tarzana, California. And the first time I heard this was there. And the saying says that you become the sum total of the 5 to 7 people you spend your time with. And I quickly realized that it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 to 10 people that you actually know. Nowadays, we would call these parasocial relationships in the age of social media and the internet, right? And all of this telecommunication. And so you have these parasocial relationships where you feel like like and trust people because you have so much repeated contact with them, audio and visually, and otherwise, or reading their books and things like that, because this information is so easily accessible on the net. I mean, we can read books online, we can listen to podcasts like this one, we can watch them on video, and there are video podcasts, on and on, right? So I developed a lot of parasocial relationships with the Black Panther and Panthro. Interesting, it's strange that I just actually put that together there. Of course, there's a political militant group called the Black Panthers, right? And then Panthro from the Thundercats, he was voiced by, and it sounded like a black man. I think that's interesting. I know that I've thought this before, but just now, when I said both of them back to back, I just realized that, there was some representation there that needed to be fostered a little bit more. It was subconscious. It was actually never overtly said that I know of, but that's interesting. So those are my role models. I built parasocial relationships with Panthro, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, Wolverine, even Venom. I liked villains. Destro also had seemed like it was a brother's voice. Destro from Cobra. So there were, and He-Man, and so there were a lot of characters that I analyzed and wanted to be more like them. Of course, Bruce Lee, Lee Jun-fan. I mentioned earlier the quote that my mom said. They hit you, hit them back twice as hard. And Bruce Lee and Panthro are the main inspirations for why my weapon of choice are the nunchaku, or as they say in China, shuangjiagun. I am a big fan of using nunchaku. I don't do a lot of tricks with them. It's very practical. I know strikes and defenses with them, but I don't do a whole lot of tricking and spinning fancy stuff with them. And so, how does this apply to what I'm talking about with the KappaGuerra Capoeira team Virginia Beach? Is that instead of me just idolizing these characters, instead of me just, ogling them on the screen and wishing I could be like them, I've spent most of my life training to be as close to those characters as I can. And I learned very quickly that a lot of the flashy stuff, a lot of the flowery movements are not practical for combat. They are practical for playing a game and for dancing and showing off, and also for physical fitness, for body awareness, and for other things that contribute to combat effectiveness, but they should not be used in combat themselves. So these things, but what I've seen happen in capoeira a lot is that people conflate and they think that a lot of those flashy movements are being trained for combat. A lot of people do not know how to make distinctions between what works in a fight and what should be used for dancing and playing. And so what has happened in capoeira contemporanea, as I've written in an article years ago, is that you have what comes down to being a very badly organized circus. And it's because those delineations that I talked about earlier about a cooperative dance, a competitive game, and a destructive force of a martial art are very distinct things, and you have to be self-aware and know what your intention is when you are practicing capoeira. And that's, again, what makes KappaGuerra distinct. And so my parasocial relationships, the idols, the mentors that I chose were basically either superpowered beings or mutants, or, and they weren't real. But you can aspire to be as close to those things as you can, right? You've heard the saying, shoot for the moon. If you miss, at least you'll land amongst the stars. That means aim high. Just keep aiming high. People say practice makes perfect. I say practice makes better. My mom always used to say there's always room for improvement. It's one of the 4 rules that she laid out, or the things that I remember from her teaching that I codified and put into a system. The first one is, everything happens for a reason. Number 2, there's always room for improvement. Number 3, do what you love and the money will follow. And the 4th one is a question, which I love. What do you mean can't? And so those things apply, and it should apply. You can, and there's nothing wrong with having some kind of leisure time, but you can sit around and watch TV all day, or play video games, or go out and drink and do all this other stuff that you think is living a little and partying. Or you can throw one of the best parties in your life and start or join or create organize a capoeira team and get together, just like how people go to the basketball court and do pickup games and do pickup capoeira, which is what the KappaGuerra Capoeira team Virginia Beach is all about. And what I'm going to be demonstrating and talking about at the Healthy Living Expo Virginia Beach coming up here May 2nd and May 3rd of 2026. Look up the information about the event, healthylivingexpovb.com. And so there are so many reasons for the reason why I've pursued martial arts and have been consistent for all these years. It's really been an amazing part of my life that has, especially, finding out about capoeira and how it just fits so perfectly in my life. Both of my parents being from the Caribbean and listening to soca, calypso, and reggae music in my house all the time, and watching my parents both dance and sing all the time, and having that part of me dancing, singing, playing musical instruments, and then being obsessed with martial arts and capoeira having all of those things embedded into it. I mean, it's a complete system. And when you approach it a certain way, there's so much that you can add to it and so much that it gives to you even if you're a person like me who is completely unconventional, who has broken away from lineage because I am such an unconventional person in so many ways, but yet still, as I was talking about earlier, I learned how to extract from it what I needed to and realized that everything has a specific place, and you have to understand why you're doing whatever different moves and things you're doing for what purpose, because some things that you practice or that you use when you're dancing or playing capoeira, you won't deploy them in a self-defense or a combat situation. But then again, there are some of them that you do, and you'd be surprised. But for the most part, they serve as different foundational exercises for various different reasons: for cardiovascular, for power, for strength, for flexibility, for speed, for body awareness, proprioception. You know, there's so many different reasons why you do certain things in capoeira practice that a lot of people that I've never heard articulating. And part of that could possibly be that just because maybe I haven't gotten belts or cords and gone to the higher echelons with all the mestres, but I completely doubt it. I highly doubt it, because from what I've seen, none of that stuff is present. So, and there are only there's a few people who, and that's everybody's choice, but there are very few people who are actually deploying capoeira in a significant way as an effective combat system. And so, all right, and now let's see if there's anything else here. Got 31 minutes I've been going on, and so yeah, there are many benefits to capoeira. So this is a call to action. You know, come on out if you're in the Virginia Beach area or the Greater Hampton Roads area. There's a gentleman Phil Sessions, who runs a capoeira group in Portsmouth, Chesapeake area, who I am really looking forward to getting to meet him and participate in the Healthy Living Expo Virginia Beach, to play and demonstrate, and to help him build up his organization and build up mine, and hopefully we can have a great, connection, a great partnership between our groups, and really again, I want to build a community, get people outside to be able to treat your body as the kind of vessel that it is, that you can have fun using your body to dance, to play a game, and you don't need any equipment. Just you and your thoughts, and you can work strategically, and you can dance and play a game, move your body, get out, meet people, build a community. It's really one of the most amazing things. I've been playing and practicing capoeira for 34 years. Whenever I say that, it just really is kind of stunning to me that I've been doing it for that long, and I'm grateful for it, for all the things that it has brought into my life. Capoeira has given me so much, and I don't really know actually very much about it because of the way that most of the instructors and teachers that I've met have transmitted the information, and there was something a little bit off about a lot of it, not all of it. There's some really great people. My first Mestre Pelé, and his brother, now Mestre Sula, Mestre Parafina from Capoeira Los Angeles, Shira Winitsky, who also taught me capoeira as well. I went to some her groups and played her rodas, but very few other people. Of course, Capoeira Manjinga in Hangzhou, China. When I was there, I trained with those guys for a couple of years. So, they're excellent. Actually, I still keep in touch with them online. And I'm sort of kind of longing to get back there, but I don't know when that's going to happen. So I've had a lot of really great contacts with capoeira groups, but mainly those that I mentioned. I kind of lost contact with Mestre Pelé years ago, but Capoeira Los Angeles embraced me. I didn't really get to, besides Pelé, I didn't really get to play with very many capoeira groups in as close a relationship as I've had with Parafina and Manjinga, but wow, there are a lot of emergency vehicles right now on First Colonial. I don't know what is going on here. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. There are a lot of vehicles here. I don't know where I should be going, but all right. Okay. Well, I hope everybody's all right. But yes, again, I mean, I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to do some more of this, but this is a call to action for the KappaGuerra team in Virginia Beach. Right now, for now, just tentatively every Thursday from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. on the corner of Cypress and 18th in the park that shares the lot with Waring's Gym, directly across the street from Badass Coffee of Hawaii in Virginia Beach. Again, Cypress and 18th. You can reach out to me at 757-763-9621. I am Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander.